Welcome back to Nothing But Nets. I'm joined in my weekly spot with Boy Wonder, my favorite guest here, Connor Long of Jets X Factor. Go ahead and introduce yourself and tell me what you got going on.
Gary, thank you for having me on again. I think this is the third or fourth time we've done this little weekly spot appearance. Love talking Nets, but Gary, really appreciate you having me. Like I said, if you guys don't know me, I'm sure most of you do. Connor Long of New York Jets X Factor and my own podcast, NY Flight Jets Talk. Really excited to be here and chop it up with you tonight, Gary.
I'm glad to have you on, and I wanted to start with this. Evan from Evan and Tiki
Oh God.
posted a tweet power ranking all 8 or whatever it was, 2, 4, 6, 9, I guess, GMs in New York sports. So the hockey teams, the baseball teams, the basketball teams, and the football teams. And he put Sean Marks last, and directly ahead of him was Joe Douglas. So whatever it was, 9, I guess. So 8 and 9 were Joe Douglas, Sean Marks. Wanted your take as a Jet and a Nets fan. Who is, I don't know how you want to phrase it, the better, worse GM, Marks or Joe Douglas? What's your
Well,
thoughts on that?
Well, yeah. First off, Evan and Tiki. That's personally one of my favorite. Him, Boomer and Geo, Evan and Tiki. Personally, my favorite combo was Tiki and Tyranny when they had that going. But unfortunately, it is no longer a thing. But first off, I mean, I'm kind of surprised. That just goes to show how unbiased Evan Roberts is. Because if I'm not mistaken, Evan Roberts is a Nets fan.
The only
And
Nets
then,
fan you know.
yep. And then, what is he? Is he a Jet fan too, or
he's
is
a
he?
Jets.
Yeah,
He's
he's
a
a
Jets
Jet
fan,
fan too.
Nets fan. He's one of the good guys.
Yes. Oh yeah. So I honestly like his honesty, and I couldn't have agreed with him more. You see Joe Douglas's atrocious record, whatever 27 and 50 something.
56.
56, his record with the New York Jets. And then you look at Sean Marks. I mean, I would refer to him as the cat who has 9 lives. I mean, let's say if you put Sean Marks in Joe Douglas's seat, he would have been fired 2 years ago. It's as simple as that. So in terms of those rankings, I actually hadn't seen those until you just brought it up. I think it's a very fair evaluation of those two respective GMs.
If one had to go, you can only keep one, I guess. Douglas or Marks. Who's worse? I'm gonna put you on the spot here.
Marks. I think Marks is worse.
All right. Okay.
I think Joe Douglas is like he's at least showed a sense of urgency during free agency. He's like, for example, this offseason he viewed, okay, I'm on a hot seat. I'm gonna add 3 new starters to this offensive line. I'm gonna add Mike Williams to pair with Garrett Wilson and create one of the top 1-2 punches in the league. He showed some sort of sense of urgency compared to Sean Marks, who's like, I'll just go in year out and year out. The only thing I can do is draft, and I'll sign 3 more busts this year.
Mark's really. I mean, why is Dorian Finney-Smith and Cam Johnson still here? Like they could have traded Dorian
Yeah,
Finney-Smith last year for 2. He miscalculated the team. He fired Jacques Vaughn because he thought the team should be competing. It's like, do you see your roster, bro? It's trash. How have you
yeah,
miscalculated it this badly? So, like Cam Johnson should have been traded at the deadline last year. Dorian Finney-Smith should have been traded at the deadline. They could have got Naz Reid and D'Angelo Russell in for Kyrie Irving. Instead, they did the Finney. He's made a blunder of errors, and like he's the longest tenured net, like the GM who
yeah,
fired all of these coaches. Can someone explain to me why Kenny Atkinson was fired? Like
yeah.
what?
It's crazy.
It was so. I'm not high on Sean Marks, and which kind of segues us into the main topic of the show. So I mean, how hot is Sean Marks? I mean, I guess it's hard to say because any other team would have fired him 5 years ago. But how hot is Sean Marks' hot seat at this point? Like, is he given time to rebuild this, or does he have to show that he's making progress in this draft coming up?
Honestly, I don't think his seat is very hot. If I'm being completely honest,
I don't know. I can't see how it's not,
yeah,
but who knows, right?
it's like the ownership group, Joe Tsai, his whole family. They seem to be very high on Marks, as they've kept him through this whole ride. And you know, I I think if they wanted to move on from him, they would have fired him at the beginning of this offseason, as they knew going into this season, they are going into a rebuild year. So it's like, you can't expect Marks, okay, if he doesn't have where I draw the line is like, we successfully tanked this year. We get an Ace Bailey, a Dylan Harper, a Cooper Flag, and then we don't end up winning after that for at least the next 2 seasons. Then I see Marks gone. But no, I see him here for the foreseeable future somehow.
I think you're right. The New York Post article I sent you kind of laid out the
Yep.
importance of this 20. Now the Nets have 4 picks in this draft. You'd figure at least the first is going to be in the top 3 to 5, potentially the number 1 pick, top 3, top 5. But you think the Nets are going to be in that conversation of
Absolutely.
teams. He's got to get this right. And look, we can sit here and debate Cooper Flagg, Ace Bailey, Dylan Harper. I know Nolan Traore, there's other guys, Edgecombe, other guys that people like a lot in this draft. He has got to get this right? Like, if you get the number 2 pick in the draft, you better get the second best player in the draft, right? Like, if you get number 1, you better get it right. I don't know who that is. I feel some type of way about Ace Bailey, but like, I'm not paid millions of dollars to do this. If one guy is better than the other, and the Nets have the first pick in the draft, he's just got it. Don't worry about fit. Don't worry about position. Just go get the best player in the draft. And he has to get that right. Otherwise, he's got to go.
Yeah, Gary, I absolutely agree with you there. And if I'm Sean Marks right now, I've made it this far somehow in my tenure with the Nets. I'm feeling very confident because what he has shown is, it's one thing if it's like, I'd be stressed out if I was Sean Marks right now to the point where it's like, okay, I need to go out and make a blockbuster move to add a Donovan Mitchell to this Nets team, compared to, okay, I have time to tank where I now draft. That's a good sign for Marks because what he has shown, like I said, in his tenure with the Nets, he is very solid at drafting. He's not good at anything else, but yes, he can draft. And honestly, they've gone through these couple of years where it's like they don't even have any picks in the draft. And I was kind of disappointed they didn't have any picks in this year's draft because I mean, you have some you had the Alex Starr. I think Alex Starr, despite a not so great summer league, I think he might shape up to be one of the best players in the NBA. And then I forgot Lee Shea, or how do you say his last name? The other guy, forgot what team he went to, but he's really solid. I'm kind of disappointed we didn't have a pick in this year's draft, especially coming off of a very rough year. Kind of goes back to that whole thing where we went all in for those 2 seasons or so, and then it's like now you're just the gridlock for the next couple of years.
So I want to play a scenario by you, right? Let's say the Nets get the 4th or 5th pick in the lottery. You've got 3 more picks in the first round in the 22. So you have 4 picks total. Would you be willing to trade all 4 of those picks to move from, let's say, hypothetically 5 to 2 to get Bailey or Cooper Flagg, whichever one is left? Is that something that you'd be willing to do? Like, if you don't get in the top 2 or 3 picks, trade the rest of it to get down there and get that star player?
Very good question, but you said we'd sit at pick 5 or 4?
We have 4. Let's say hypothetically the Nets in the lottery get the 5th pick in the draft.
Okay, yeah.
Would you trade all 4 of our first round picks to move to 2 and draft either Flagg or Ace Bailey or whoever is the best player there?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. We tanked this on 4 first-round picks. Give me 4 first-round picks this year. Oh my God. And I think this upcoming class is talented, but if I'm sitting at pick 5, the Lou High product, VJ Edgecombe, that's who he's coming up. I really, really like him. Played on Long Island, Lou High at high school. Give me Edgecombe. I really like the way he plays, the way, he's like, he is as close to what we've seen to a LeBron. I know that's a crazy comparison, but in these last 2 years,
athleticism. He's not 6'9" like LeBron, but he's got the athleticism. He's got the speed. He's got I compare him to Steve Francis and Russell Westbrook. Like, he's that kind of above the rim, super athlete, super explosive. Like, could be a star in any single sport. And he just happened to pick basketball, but if he picked football, he'd be a Pro Bowl wide receiver kind of guy.
He could do anything. He could shoot. I mean, shoot, rebound, pass. I mean, and he's top notch at all 3 of those things. Then you have 3 other first round picks, and probably towards the end of the order, given that we'd have pick 5. Still that's four new pieces that you could build a championship winning team around, alongside Cam Thomas and Nick Claxton. So yeah, I'm taking the 4 first round picks.
I want to address this because I'm on the record saying this. Okay, so Sean Marks should have been gone the minute he signed that trash bag Ben Simmons. And of course, Simmons was traded for Harden. I was against the Harden trade at the time, and I stood alone on that. I stood correct. Well,
I wasn't.
I said you got Kyrie, and KD, as long as we're still only playing with one basketball, all Harden is going to do is take quality shots away from KD or Kai. Which one of those two guys, which are two of the most efficient scorers to ever live, do you want taking less shots, right? And I just saw the game changing. The idea of the big three like you had in Miami, that era is gone. It's not about putting three superstars together, right? And I know Golden State did, but Golden State also had a ton of role players. Right? Golden State had 4 Hall of Famers and then a litany of role players. So it's a little bit different what they put together. And I saw Kyrie, Harden, and KD as like these are 3 ball dominant guys. None of them really defend. None of them really rebound. This is not a great combination of players. You trade away Jarrett Allen, who became an all-star. You trade away Caris LeVert, which is an ideal 6th man in the league, can play the 1, 2, or 3, can defend the 1, 2, and 3. And I'm just looking at this, and I'm like, I hate that trade. Then he made it 10 times worse by trading for Ben Simmons. It's like you had a headache, and now you turn it into a migraine with a tumor. It's like, and I understand I understand the thinking. Like you could play Simmons and KD together, and you could go small, but still go big at the same time. Like you could play all guards in Simmons and Durant and Kyrie and I forget Joe Harris, whoever else. You can go small, but you still have 2 guys 6'10", 6'11" on the court. So you're in essence still going big while going small. I get it, but Ben Simmons doesn't play. Like he doesn't play at all, and he had just quit on the Sixers, who had championship aspirations. Right, like it was a team that was people thought were a contender, and he just quit on them. And that was, to me, it's like you had a headache in Harden. And Harden wanted out when KD got hurt. Okay. I would have told him, no. KD comes back in 2 weeks. You're going to be on the team, and we're going to make a run in the playoffs. We'll decide at the end of the season what we want to do with you, right? But I'm not trading you right now. And then Harden did that and brought he did that Harden trade for Simmons and just made the situation way worse. And if you're going to make that trade, you should have at least said Simmons and Maxey or no deal.
Yeah, I don't think that I don't think they would have given up Maxey, but yeah, good point there.
No deal then.
No,
like,
no deal. Yeah,
with just Simmons. Yeah.
Here's the thing: when Simmons was in the there was that whole thing where he's holding out. Oh my! First it was the back, and then it was the mental preparation, whatever. I think that's what it was in terms of like mental preparation. He was saying he wasn't ready for the games mentally or something. But the way I looked at it, because when Ben Simmons was healthy at the time, he was one of the most dominant players in the NBA. I mean, he could play point guard and through center. So it's like you have that along with here's the thing. I think if Ben Simmons stayed healthy, I think that trade could have panned out really well. If he played, he stayed healthy I think that trade could have panned out really well, just given the fact I like the way they could like kind of use that the Nets rotation there in terms of involving players like Cam Thomas and Claxton, like you said, going big and small at the same time, and also getting Simmons on the court. You know, I think if Simmons was able to stay healthy and was dominant like we saw towards the prime of his career with the Sixers, we aren't sitting here today talking about, oh, is it Ace Bailey, Dylan Harper, or Cooper Flagg? Like we're talking about making a run at the NBA freaking finals right now. So I think Ben Simmons' health really, really derailed the franchise, but they knew what they were getting into at the same time. Is like you said, he was holding out on a team like the Sixers that were trying to make a run at the finals at the same time.
I want to get into Sean Marks' future here. First, like, look, this is probably, besides the year that he got KD and Kai, which is an aberration, I like what Sean Marks has done this offseason. I don't want this to be the I Hate Sean Marks podcast, even though it comes off that way. I don't want it to be the I Hate Cam Johnson podcast or the I Hate Ben Simmons podcast. I want everyone to do well. Right, I want Cam Johnson.
Absolutely, you're rooting for the team.
Yeah, but so look, I give credit where it's due. I rank Sean Marks right alongside Joe Douglas, and you know where I rank Joe Douglas, right? But all things considered, I think Marks has had a pretty good offseason. I'd give him a B+ because Dorian Finney-Smith and Cam Johnson are still here. If he trades those guys, this can get to an A. But how would you rate the offseason and what Marks has done so far? Keon Johnson, Killian Hayes, Zaire Williams, and Jalen Wilson was here, but the way Jalen Wilson performed in the Summer League, how would you rate, the Bridges trade, the pick swap with the Suns. How would you rate everything that he's done this offseason by itself?
Yeah, absolutely. So if taking everything into consideration, I think the only bad thing he's done, like you mentioned, DFS and Cam Johnson, CJ are still on the Nets roster. I'm gonna beat you out there a little. I'm gonna go with an A minus. If he wants to get that to an A, if he trades DFS and Cam Johnson before the season starts, that goes to an A and possibly an A plus for me. I think here's the thing: the Knicks Nets trade. I know it's been overplayed so many times, so I'll just make it quick. But it benefited both sides tremendously. The Nets got what they wanted; they got all those picks, so now they have the ability to tank. Meanwhile, the Knicks added a very very dominant player without giving up any current players. They gave up Bojan, but I'm talking about rotational pieces here that really were a part of that the Knicks run last year. They're trying to chase an NBA Finals trophy. Meanwhile, the Nets are trying to tank. So I thought Marks did a very good job in negotiating that trade. Keon Johnson, getting him back. He played great in summer league. Jalen Wilson, another Sean Marks draft pick there, a second round draft pick actually. So everything he's done this offseason. I even like the Killian Hayes signing, the Zaire Williams signing. A minus. If he wants to get it to an A or an A plus, DFS and Cam Johnson are out of here before the season starts.
Sorry about that. I want to make a comparison, and I agree. Both teams got better with this trade. Both teams, well, the Nets got worse, and that's what I mean by better. I know that's a weird way to say it, but both teams got what they wanted in the trade. But here's what I would say about the Knicks end of the trade, right? Like, let's say there's a girl that you really want to take out, right? But you don't have a car. And you got everything else. You got the suit, you got the dinner reservations, but you don't have a car, right? So you go into Mercedes dealer, you find an E350 sedan that says $60,000 on the tag, right? And you say, is that car $90,000? What's the car salesman going to say? Yes, that's $90,000.
Yeah.
So now you spent all of your $90,000 on the car, and now you can't take the girl out to dinner. That's the way I feel like the Knicks, like, you gave up too much for that. You didn't have to give up that much, right? There was no other team that was going to offer anywhere near six. The Nets weren't even asking for 6 first-round picks. They were asking for 3 or 4. I remember talking to Jake like 3 days before that, and I said, what do you think it takes to get this done, right? And he said 4. I'm like, oh, I absolutely do it for 4. I would do it for 3 probably. And then you got 6. It's like, and I understand, yes, the Knicks better the day after that trade. Yes, in the short term, they are absolutely better.
And the Nets are too.
And the Nets are better by getting worse, right? Yeah. It's just what everyone wanted. So I get the trade. I just don't understand why they spent $90,000 on a $60,000 car and now can't take the girl out to dinner, which was the whole purpose of this in the first place, right? Like the Knicks traded away all that draft capital, which they could have spent. They could have used that to garner additional assets at the deadline. Now those picks are gone. And I still don't think I think they're the second best team in the East. But I thought they were already the second best team in the East.
Yeah, I don't think it put but again, I don't think any move, unless it was adding Donovan Mitchell, I don't think any move could even put them close to the Celtics at number 1, just because the Celtics are that good of a team. But yeah, I completely agree with what you're saying there. You mentioned, 4 first-round picks you'd be happy with. I'd honestly take, if the Nets straight up just gave the Nets added 2 first-round picks and a conditional first-round pick, and then gave up Bridges, I would have been happy. I would have been happy with that. I would have been very happy. Meanwhile, it made sense for the Nets. It was bittersweet for me, though, since I was a big Bridges fan and they got rid of him. But it's it benefits the team, and it benefits Bridges too. He's a very talented player. He doesn't deserve to, sit in on this rebuild and, losing franchise. He deserves to go out, play with his Villanova teammates and chase an NBA championship.
I agree with that to a degree. I also disagree with a little bit. Like, he played here for a year and a half. He played well. He played every game. He played hard. I like Mikal Bridges. He's a great player. I don't feel like I owe him a favor. I'm paying his contract. I let him develop into not a superstar, but a star, a very good top 30 player.
A dominant player.
A very good player in the league. And that's what I paid him to do. It's the same thing when Kyrie said he wanted to be traded here, or Harden wanted to be traded to Philly. I don't care. This is not let's make a deal. if I'm going to trade you, I'm going to trade you. Now, this happened to be both. This was the best deal the Nets were going to get, and it was where Bridges wanted to go. And I think there was actually more pressure on the Knicks to make that trade than the Nets, because the Nets could have shot back and traded him to Utah. They could have traded him to a bunch of teams. The Knicks, there was a lot of pressure internally from the players, and I think we see this now with Brunson's contract. I think there was pressure from Hart and Brunson to make that trade, to get Bridges. Like, whatever you need to do, get Bridges. We feel we can win with Bridges. Now the Knicks got him, and look, you're a championship contender, right?
Yeah.
But I still kind of feel like there's no way they're better than Boston. So they may be the second or third best team in the league, but they're not getting past Boston. What are your thoughts on that? Did they surpass Boston, or at least even it up with Boston, where now it's a toss-up?
No, I think they're still number 2, clear cut. Like, definitely. I don't think, like I said, I don't think any move could really put them ahead of Boston unless it was adding Donovan Mitchell, and then I'd consider putting it at. But yeah, I do agree with the favors there. And you mentioned the Kyrie and Harden thing. Like, I don't care if you want to go there. At least if Bridges, I feel like even if Bridges formally requested a trade out of the Nets organization, which we don't know if he did, which we don't officially know he did, but if I think if he formally requested a trade out of the Nets organization, and the and the Nets were like, "No, Mikal, you're staying here." Mikal would have been like, "All right, fine, I'll play." Compared to guys like Kyrie and Harden, who I feel like would have just been like, "No, I am not playing." But that is the player Bridges is. I don't think he missed the game because of like that where the trade wasn't even quote official yet. But he's missed a very, very small amount of games in his NBA career. He's a guy who's gonna leave every inch of his effort out on the floor that night.
I want to address this comment by a friend of the program, Nate, who's on with us all the time. This is literally a channel dedicated to Jalen Brunson and the Bridges trade. Look, the Bridges trade is the biggest move the Nets have made in a year and a half. It was the biggest move in the NBA's offseason, I would say. Is that fair? It's the biggest trade of the offseason?
Yeah, I'd say so. And it's crosstown rivals too, which makes it even more interesting. Like, it would be one thing if it was like this trade happened with like the Jazz, like you spoke about earlier, but it's like crosstown rivals too. This is huge.
I think me and Nate should have a rematch of our debate, but instead of Brunson and Halliburton, we should debate this Bridges trade, because he loves it for the Knicks. I understand it for the Knicks. I just think the Nets fleeced them, right? Like, I just think the Nets came in and said, "Give me everything you have," and the Knicks said, "Okay." Like, I think me and Nate should have a full-out debate like we did on Brunson versus Halliburton, but we should do that on the Knicks trade, with the Bridges trade, and he can argue for the Knicks. And I would obviously argue that the Nets fleeced them. Okay, debate it after the Knicks win a championship. How about we debate it after they lose to Philly in the second round? I don't think they're going to lose to Philly, but they're sure as hell not winning it.
I think they'll make it to the Eastern Conference Finals.
There's a better. Okay, so here's what I'll say to this. One of two things can happen. They lose to Philly in the second round, or they win a championship. Which one do you think is more reasonable?
Losing to Philly in the second round, 1000%. They're not. Here's the thing: Boston is at their best. New York is at their best. Boston is winning. In order for Boston to win, not Boston, Knicks to win, I mean, they're gonna need to get some sort of luck in at least 2 games of the series, because especially if like. The first thing for the Knicks, if they want to take on Boston, is be fully healthy going into that matchup. I mean, you saw that Game 7 matchup against the Pacers. I mean, I thought they had a legitimate chance to win that game if they were healthy, but no. I mean, Deuce McBride comes in 4 minutes into the game to replace an injured OG Anunoby, who was a role player on that team. I personally think they overpaid for him this offseason, but they needed to get the deal done, and that's what this league has come to. But I mean, the first step for the Knicks is getting a fully healthy roster.
For sure. And I want to address this. Nate says, "I will flame you right now, Gary. Stop. Pick a day, pick a time. Me and Nate are going to have this debate. We got to get it out of our systems. It's like when there's tension between you and your girlfriend. Like, you got to have to fight at some point, right? Like, you got to just get it over with or get it out, and then you can just pick up from where you left off. So, yeah, let me know, Nate, when you want to have this. I will obviously take the side of the Nets. You'll take the side of the Knicks, and we'll have who won this trade, because it's clearly the Nets. And I'm not saying the Knicks didn't get better. The Knicks got better. So in the very short term, the Knicks got better. Just
Well,
like they got better when they got Carmelo Anthony. And then you look at all those draft picks, and the last pick the Nuggets made with that pick was Jamal Murray. It's like, wow, the Nuggets really won that trade. So I'd be more than happy to have that debate with my boy Nate.
Yeah, I wanna like. It happens all the time. They show it in the NFL. Like once the deal, especially with the major deals, they do it in the NBA sometimes. Once the major deal is like actually done and all the draft like picks are actually selected, I want to see how it looks and see how Mikal Bridges ends his career with the Knicks.
It seems like they're going to be together for a while, right? When they first made the trade, I was like, well, Brunson has 2 years left on a deal that he's underpaid on. Bridges has 2 years left. I mean, Randall's got it on his last year. I don't know what I'm guessing Randall's gone. I'm guessing. I don't know what their plan is for him. But it looks like that core of Villanova players are going to be here for a while. It looks like. I mean, look, things can change in the NBA overnight, right? Like it looked like KD and Kyrie were going to be here for a while, and that changed quickly. But it appears that they're going to be here for a while, and the question is, if they win a championship at all, if they're here together for 5 years and they win a championship in that 5th year, obviously the trade worked out for them, right? I just, and who knows what 5 years from now looks like, but right now, I still see teams that I think are better than the Knicks. So and one plays in the same division as them, so that's a problem.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, fully healthy. Knicks, both teams at their best. Boston is flaming the Knicks.
So you give Marks a B plus. You give him an A minus on the
A minus.
Right? A minus. And if he can get rid of Cam and I wanted your take on it. So there was rumors. I guess those are kind of dead now. Cam Johnson to Cleveland for Isaac Okoro and a couple of twos. It was 2 or 3 twos, and that never really got flushed out. What were your thoughts on that trade, which now appears, which seemed to be a green light according to the Nets, now seems to be dead? What were your thoughts?
I think we spoke about this actually. Yeah. But 100%. Give me Okoro. What he's shown in his year. Okoro plus the second round picks. What Okoro was shown in this, with the Nets. Still a younger piece. Get him involved. Thomas. I wouldn't call him similar to Killian Hayes as he's not completely a bust yet. But yeah, I definitely take that trade. And Gary, I actually see Nate in the chat, quote, "I'll do it right now in front of a child." I say we get Nate to call in.
I posted the link. It's up to Nate. If Nate wants to call in, if anyone wants to call in and weigh in on, and Nate's not wrong, which has become the Jalen Brunson Bridges, nothing but Jalen Brunson and Bridges forum instead of the nothing but Nets. You can call in, and we can have that debate, because I think this is a franchise. I think this is what potentially. Now it depends what they do with the picks. They got to get the picks right, which is kind of the name of today's show. This could be what the Cowboys did to the Vikings in the Herschel Walker trade. Like it could be what the Nets did, the Celtics did to the Nets in the KG and Pierce trade. Like it has that. Now they got to get the picks right? Like if the Celtics don't draft Tatum and Brown, and the Cowboys don't take Emmitt Smith and Michael Irvin and Troy Aikman, if they don't get all of those picks right, the trade doesn't look that bad. So the Nets gotta get this right. You ready to bring on big fella?
Mm-hmm.
It's the big fella.
What's up, boys?
How you doing?
How you all doing?
Doing well.
Good show, man. Good show so far. I like it.
Thank you.
So,
a former Nets fan. Lost interest in the team. And I was just talking to people, Connor, about you. People, not you, but Net fans who kind of felt disenfranchised with the team and kind of left them when they moved from New Jersey to Brooklyn, which is you.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. The Nets, once they moved to Brooklyn, I was done with them. I mean, I followed that team ever since I was a little kid, and once they left, I left them. So,
He's got the old school Drazen Petrovic jersey.
I do.
He does.
He's still my favorite player all time, man. But,
wow. Yeah, you see this happening. Like I saw, it's obviously a different sport, but the Oakland A's. I mean, you've seen their fan base; they're going crazy over this ownership thing. They had that whole reverse boycott thing going. Saw a video, I think it was, of like someone actually going around polling fans, like, "Are you still supporting the Athletics when they move to Vegas?" And everyone's like, "No, no, no." And then there were like a couple yes, but everyone's like, "No, once they move out of here, I lose complete all my fandom in this team."
Yeah, when you're loyal to a team that's winning single digit games,
They got
you
to
know,
12. They did get to 12 that year, but yeah.
and they're drafting guys like Dennis Hopson and Rex Chapman, and
Rex Chapman was actually one of their better picks. I mean, I'm
you
not
know
saying he was a
he
star,
was
but Rex
garbage, but
Chapman.
I mean, when you're drafting Yinka Dare,
Ed O'Bannon.
I was so high on Ed O'Bannon.
So happy when they got him.
I was so happy when they got Ed O'Bannon, and then of course in Nets fashion, he sucked. So
he was like Zach Wilson bad. It's like, and he was so
Mhm.
good in college. He was like 25 points a game, player of the year, national champion. Like he was the best player in college basketball.
They were saying he was going to be rookie of the year and all that stuff. Yeah, I mean, he was.
The knock on him was he couldn't defend, but he's a bucket, right? Kind of like, okay, the worst case is he's Cam Thomas, right?
Yeah.
And he's the worst scorer I've ever seen in my life. It's like, I know. He can't hit a mid-range. He sure as hell can't shoot the long ball. He's got no post game. This guy is like the worst player I've ever seen. It's like, I don't understand how he went from so good to so bad. Like it was bad.
When they drafted Yinka Dare, I was like, yeah, the center out of George Washington, let's go. And then the guy can't hit a freaking layup.
He was horrible, man.
It was
a
so
little bit
bad.
Of a project when they drafted him, and the first year didn't look like this is a project. We're gonna be fine.
Mm-hmm.
It never.
He had the body, but he had no skill.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I'm sorry, Connor. This is way before your time, man.
All good.
But
even what you'd consider, like the Nets were like, basketball was the last sport I really picked a team on. So I started rooting for the Nets right before the season started, where they made the Eastern Conference Finals. So 2019, I think it was. So that's like very new compared to. Well, no, that actually wasn't 2019. What was that?
It was.
Help me out here, Gary.
What year was
when they made the Eastern Conference Finals against 21?
When the Nets.
Yeah. Or no.
The Nets haven't made the conference finals since they won the conference finals in 2003.
No, when they faced off against the Bucks. What was it?
That second round. That was 2021.
Yeah, second round, 2021. Yeah. That's what it was. I hadn't become a Nets fan until the first year of not the first year, the beginning of the 2021 season, right before it started. I picked my team. I chose the Nets. So yeah, I'm compared to the Jets when I started watching them in like 1920. They're my newest franchise.
Okay, well that's cool. I mean, it's always good to pick up on one,
But
this one has a sordid past, man. This one is not the history of them. I mean, going back to the ABA, they were great in the ABA, and then once they got to the NBA, Dr. J was gone, and it's over. Pretty much. So
they moved to Jersey. They had to they had to infringe on the Knicks' territory, and there was a rule at the time that they couldn't. So they had to go to Jersey, and then they had to sell their best player to the Sixers. So the two teams that they were sandwiched in between, got the best of them all right. They literally had to give their best player to the 76ers.
Yeah, when I was 13 years old, I played against Darryl Dawkins at basketball camp.
Oh, wow.
And it was. I mean, it was. I used to love the Nets, and when they left, like I said, I left too, man. But getting back to this season and that trade, actually, I believe that the Nets did not come out on the better end of that trade. I really don't.
Wow.
All right, let me ask you: what more could the Nets have wanted? Was 6 picks not enough? Should they have gotten 7 or 8? I'm not trying to sound funny. What more do you think they could have gotten for?
Mikal Bridges is one of the best young players in basketball. He really is. And
I don't disagree.
And his contract was great too. And you try and build around someone like that. Okay. The Nets left nothing for their fans at all, which brings me back to that 12-win season that we were talking about. And, draft picks are like they say, a lottery pick. It's a crapshoot. You don't know how they're going to turn out. And the Knicks picks are going to be lower then they're not like going to be lottery picks or anything like that. They're going to be lower. And yeah, you can package them, but if you package them and go up, you still don't. There's no guarantees, and you did have a guarantee of one of the best young players in basketball.
Let me push back on that a little bit. They had Bridges last year. How did they do?
No, it's true. It's true, but they didn't put anybody. Really didn't put anybody.
They don't
with
have the cap space. I mean, Mark screwed it up so bad. They didn't.
Yep.
They didn't have. They don't. They're paying the highest paid player is Ben Simmons, who you want to send home. Right?
He is the worst.
It's what I'm saying. He screwed this up so bad. The only option he could do is trade Bridges. It's not like I wanted to trade Bridges. It's like I wanted to trade Cam Johnson. I do want to trade. I didn't want to trade Bridges. I just didn't see another option. There's no way out of hell unless you trade Bridges and get your picks back.
I understand. I understand what you're saying, but I don't know. I mean, there could have been other teams out there. I don't know if there were, but I mean, the amount of picks, what they got was good, but the quality of the picks really are not going to turn out to be what, you wanted.
Yeah, but they don't need here's the thing, they have their own draft picks given the fact that they're going to tank. So those are going to be the high picks. And then compared to what Gary was talking about when he posed that question to me earlier about the 4 first-round picks and then packaging them to possibly trade up, the Nets aren't looking for higher picks in the order right now, as they are going to have that with their own pick the next 1 to 2 years, as they are, like I said, a rebuilding franchise. They just have these, these Knicks picks who I think it'll be, like you said, probably not lottery picks, but in the 20s or something. Right now, I think the Nets are just looking for a quantity of young players in the draft, and it doesn't really matter where those picks are.
Let me bring it to all right, I trade for a living, okay? And
yeah, how's everything going? I know
it's all right.
Crazy.
Okay. It is what it is. The government and bullshit. Oh, excuse me. But it's okay. But in my business, for every seller, there has to be a buyer.
Yeah.
Okay. And if there's a player that another team covets and you covet them too, it's not going to matter how many picks you have, man. They're going to take that player. So that's what I'm saying. I mean, if there's a guy like Cooper Flagg that's out there and the Nets don't have enough, okay, for him, and another team covets him, it doesn't matter.
No, that's true. But so here's the thing, right? So the way me and Connor view it, there are at least 2 home runs in this draft class: Ace Bailey, Cooper Flagg.
Yeah,
guys that you would say can't miss. And I understand Ben Simmons was once that crown jewel. That okay, it didn't.
Yeah, it's true.
All right, but normally in basketball, Zion Williamson, Victor Wembanyama, LeBron James, when there are guys that are hyped at that level, they usually pan out. Now, there are instances where they don't. If you can get one of those 2 guys with your own pick,
the
rest of the picks, look, I don't need another superstar, right? I'm already starting to. I have that. Hopefully, that superstar, either Cooper Flagg or Ace Bailey. Then I have a secondary scorer in Cam Thomas. Now I can start to build, right? And I have 4 picks this year, a pick next year, and then 3 picks in 2027, and then I can package those together to trade for a superstar on a team looking to tank, or a very good Bridges type player. I can trade 4 of those picks and bring in. I don't have to use them all. I wouldn't do it if I was Marks, because Marks. That's why I said you have to fire Marks and bring in a GM who's better. The only thing Marks knows how to do is draft. He's terrible at every other aspect of being a GM.
Yeah.
He got Cam Thomas at 28. He got Claxton in the 2nd round. He got Noah Clowney in the 20s, right? So those picks where you expect the Knicks to be, he's gotten good value there. My concern is he's going to trade all those picks for Jordan Poole. And it's like, because he has a history of doing that.
I hear that, yeah.
Yeah, but it gives the Nets more they could choose more versatility, if you will, in terms of. But honestly, like I mentioned earlier, keep the draft picks. I don't want Marks risking to add another Ben Simmons to this Nets team.
Yeah, I mean the Ben Simmons, like I said, once he got Ben Simmons didn't want to play. Ben Simmons was always injured. He wasn't mentally into it. I mean, to trade for a guy like that, you don't worry about where James Harden wants to go. You don't pick up damaged goods. and he was the definition of damaged goods. So
Yeah, Big Phil, I have a question for you. Since you're no longer a Nets fan after they abandoned New Jersey, what team do you root for? Are you a Knicks guy?
no, I don't have any team, to be honest.
You don't have any team? Okay.
Not really.
If
I
the
mean,
Nets go back to Jersey, will you reunite as a Nets fan? Will you meet them back in the Swamps, or
I think it's done.
you're not taking that girl
Good.
back? It's done. It's done. Usually, the advice I give to a guy when their girl leaves him is done.
Yeah, I think it's done. I mean,
comes running back to you. It's done. Yeah.
my son roots for the Sixers, and I watch them sometimes. I watch the Knicks, and the Knicks were really good last year. So I mean, I was watching them. I like basketball, so
Just a game, yeah.
Yeah, whoever, the Knicks, the Sixers, the Nets, forget about it. So that's just me. But going to the standings in the East, I would say that after Boston, there's a 2 and there's a 2A. I mean, a 2A and a 2B, and that's the Sixers and the Knicks. I think that they're both on that same level until either one of them is able to dethrone Boston, because the Sixers have really improved in this offseason. And the Knicks got that young player, and they were looking great last year too, until the injury bugs started popping up. So I think the 2A 2B, until you dethrone the king, that's where I see the standings for that. And the Nets are dead last. So
Yeah.
I want to address a comment from D-Rock, which I get a lot of, and I want kind of you guys' response to this. As long as the Knicks fail to win a championship, I'm fine with the Mikal Bridges trade. We're going nowhere fast, and we got the best package possible for Bridges. If the Knicks win a championship, does that somehow mean the Nets lost the trade? Like, or would it dampen the trade for you as a Nets fan if it put the Knicks over? I'm not saying it's going to. I'm just asking hypothetically, because it's possible. Let's say Boston gets, devastated with injuries, and the Knicks get past them, and the Knicks go on to win a championship.
If the Knicks win a championship and the Nets don't over the foreseeable future, then yes.
I see. I don't think so, because you look at the Knicks roster before they even traded for Bridges compared to the Nets roster. You have so many good young pieces. Jalen Brunson is one of the arguably best contracts in league history. I mean, This guy was an MVP candidate last year and one of the most underpaid player in the league. And then you have Josh Hart, who's playing 48 minutes a night. He is literally doing anything he possibly can to win. You have a player like OG Anunoby. You had Hartenstein last year. You have Robinson now. It's like, it would be one thing if the Nets had just as talented of a roster, but the Nets just that's not a fair way to evaluate a trade.
Well, if the Nets don't draft well enough,
that's a whole nother story.
No, to build that roster that you're talking about, and they don't perform well, and the Knicks win a championship and the Nets don't, then yeah, absolutely.
I'd say the Eastern Conference Finals, or make it to the championship. Not necessarily win the NBA Finals, as that is one of the hardest things to do in sports. If the Knicks win a championship and the Nets make it to the finals, hopefully they win. But if they don't win, I still view that as a win.
Then it would be a win-win.
Let me ask you this: if they didn't make this trade, and they didn't get Bridges, and they kept Hartenstein, so basically they kept this. They kept Hartenstein and re-signed OG. Where would you project the Knicks to finish in the East? Like, where would you rank them in the East?
Second.
Yeah.
Where would you rank them now with Bridges?
Second.
So they you see what I'm saying?
Because they didn't beat Boston.
And they haven't done that yet. And now
but they have to,
all their draft capital that they could have used to acquire assets to beat Boston.
I understand what you're saying, but until anybody beats Boston, they're going to be second, because Boston's the champs. You know what I'm saying?
In a 7-game series, would you what % chance would you give the Knicks to beat Boston, assuming both teams are fully healthy? Both teams have
last year or this year?
This year coming up, this upcoming season.
This year coming up. With Randall?
Yeah.
I gotta think.
60-40 Boston.
Okay, you think it's that? I don't think it's that close.
Oh,
but
I
if you
think it's
that close-
35.
Okay, I would say 75-25. Like if I was setting Boston's really good. Like I said the same thing about Denver last year. I said Denver's going to win the West for 5 years in a row, 3 years in a row. However long they keep Murray and that team together. And then they lost a couple of role players, and they clearly weren't the same team they were the year before. So but I look at Boston. Boston did this largely without Porzingis. They weren't healthy either, right? Like so. I still think the Knicks are the second best team in the East. I think the Knicks are maybe the third or fourth best team in the whole NBA.
Yeah,
but I think Boston is a tier by themselves.
Yeah,
I'm
you
gonna
mentioned.
bring on Nate now. Go ahead. I'll give you the last one. I'm gonna bring Nate in.
You mentioned Hartenstein there. I think Knicks fans cared a little too much about losing Hartenstein. If you look at the way Tibbs has developed centers in his tenure with the Knicks, the way he's developed Robinson, despite Robinson not staying healthy when he's been on the floor, he's been a very solid player for the Knicks. What Tibbs has shown in his ability to develop centers, I don't think this Hartenstein move really hurts the Knicks as much as fans think. And also, you have to keep in mind with his clause in that contract, they couldn't offer him more than, I forgot how much money it was, but a certain threshold of money. So then, if any other team matched that or went above the Knicks, he was basically gone. So I think Knicks fans overreacted to losing Hartenstein.
Okay, well,
big fella.
I thought Hartenstein was a good backup center. I really did. I think he was thrust in because I think they thought that Mitchell Robinson was going to be the number one center, but Hartenstein's underrated with his passing and stuff though too. I mean, he did a lot. Okay, so
you ready to hear from Hartenstein's biggest fan and my kryptonite apparently, Nate?
Absolutely. At first, Gary, I wanted to argue your points, and then Connor brought up Hartenstein, and I got to argue with Connor too. Like, Hartenstein is that dude. Hartenstein's been that dude. I remember there's a podcast called Blood Orange Tears, or something. It's a Knicks podcast. I remember calling into them when they signed Hartenstein, and he was a good passer and one of the best passing bigs when he was a Clipper, and he was one of the best offensive rebounds when he was a Clipper. Like, it's not like Thibodeau developed anyone. Like, he was always that guy, and he was always that good. He just needed minutes to shine. And I remember saying, like, this is the perfect team to come to, because he knew Mitchell Robinson's going to get hurt, and he's going to get to start and show how good he is as a starter when he was kind of always behind Zubac, and Zubac is behind like a great team contract. So he's never really he's not going to have the opportunity in LA, but he's such a big piece of the offense. And just I mean, I hope Mitchell stays healthy. Mitchell stays healthy, it won't be that big of a deal, but like Hartenstein was the reason why they were that good in the playoffs last year. I mean, outside of Jalen Brunson, he was probably the second biggest reason.
I was just
they were
like,
in
what
every series and in every game. No, I mean, yeah, outside of the superstars and the obvious answers. Yeah.
Fair
Like,
enough.
guys like that, it's tough to replace. It's gonna be tough to replace.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty tough to argue, but like you said, if Robinson, the question, I think the biggest wild card about the Knicks as a team this year, if they want to take on Boston in the Eastern Conference Finals, is really Robinson's health. I think that is the wild card of this Knicks team going into 2024.
I was surprised they didn't draft the
just
center.
Get rid of Randall and get Hartenstein or like a guy like that. Yeah, they need a center. They need to have someone, because you don't want to be like you don't want to be. It's like the Dwayne Brown issue. Like we're.
Oh,
what happened?
I lost you for a minute.
Sorry.
No, that was me. I booted you out by mistake. What were you saying, Nick?
No, just saying like the Jets last year. We were like, oh, Dwayne Brown on offensive line. Are they good enough? Can they stay healthy? Then we found out week one, it's not good enough. Like, we might find out week one with the Knicks. Like, if Mitchell Robinson gets hurt, it's like all hell's going to break loose in Knicks land if they lose Mitchell again for like the fourth time.
Yeah.
Sorry, big fella.
No, it's all good, man.
Question, Nate. Who do you think is a more valuable asset? I know you always speak about the playoffs. In the playoffs, who's more valuable? Not necessarily who's better, but who's a more valuable asset in the postseason? Hartenstein or Bridges?
I mean, probably Bridges.
Okay, no, I definitely.
I mean, you need a center. I mean, if a team doesn't have a center, you need a center.
Yeah, I thought they were going to draft
Randall or Hartenstein. I know that answer.
I'll give you another one. Bridges Well, obviously, you would say Bridges is more valuable than Randall in the playoffs as well.
Look up Randall's stats. Yeah, everyone is more
they're not
valuable
good.
than Randall right now. Josh Hart's more valuable than Randall in the playoffs, for sure. That's not even a joke. It's
Yeah.
what they've shown over their career.
That's
You know,
true.
Nate's pointed this out. You know, Randall's a guy that thrives on mismatches, either smaller, fours that guard him or slow fives that he can cook. You know, and in the playoffs, those slow fives that he can cook aren't in the game for him to pick on, right? So it kind of limits it. It turns him more into a jump shooter, and he's not really a jump shooter, right? He's a guy that likes to play bully ball. He likes to attack the smaller guys. And his game doesn't, styles make fights, and a lot of times it's the wrong matchup for him in the playoffs. And Nate makes, and I don't think, I like Randall. He's from Dallas. I want him to do well. I root for him. I said when the Knicks got him, they got a good player. But Nate raises a good point that he's a regular season player that's going to struggle in the postseason just because of his style of play.
You're seeing the light, Gary. You make me so happy. I could leave now. I'm good.
When someone makes a good point, you make a good point. So you let me know when you want to hash out, and because we got to bring closure to this, right? Because we do have to move on this trade from some point. So you let me know, Nate, when you want to have that debate. We'll set it up just like the Brunson Halliburton debate. You let me know when you want to do that, and I'll let you prepare. You don't have to do it tomorrow.
I don't have to prepare. You could clip up. We've had the debate 5 times already. You could take clip from Bobby's channel and your old channel and cut it up and post that. We've already done this.
I want you to have
I'm
time.
kidding. No, I will. Yeah. No,
I want you to have time to prepare because I don't want it to just be a bloodbath where I bully you around. I don't want that. I want you to.
You're speaking after the last. This is embarrassing. You're speaking after the Halliburton lashing.
I'm not sure that I would call it a lashing, although I'm not certain that I won that debate like I typically am. Look,
If you're saying that, I've never heard you say that.
I went into the chocolate factory and argued for vanilla. Obviously, the fans, the people there aren't going to love that. I understand, but I was willing to go into your turf and battle you on your home turf.
We did it on a Nets channel. What are you talking about?
And everyone listening was a Knicks fan. That's why. Everyone listening was a Knicks fan. And I argued for Halliburton. And if you gave me a choice right now, I'd look long and hard at Brunson and say that was a hell of a postseason. Give me Halliburton. I don't know what else to say, right? Like, you make a good point on Randall. I'm not saying you didn't make any good points on Bridges. I mean, on Brunson, for sure you did. But I don't know. I kind of like a point guard who can move the ball. Like, that's kind of the object of the game. And it's not like it's a guy that averages.
He can move the ball too. We went over this. If Brunson wanted to have 10 assists a game and played in the Pacers offense, he could have 10 assists a game. But Halliburton can't do what Brunson can do. That's the difference. He can't score anywhere inside the three-point line. He can't score at the rim. He can't score almost anywhere some days.
Yeah, if he's
it's
not
that
hitting
he
his threes,
chooses
he's not
to do
scoring.
that. That's what he does. He's a pick and roll point guard.
Yeah, you call him Rondo with a jump shot. Yeah, Rondo with a jump shot is one of the premier players of all. Yeah, exactly. I love that as a comparison.
Rondo was the 4th best player on his team, and he's obviously not as good as Rondo yet at all.
If he could shoot, if Rondo could shoot, how good would he be? If he could
right,
knock
but there's a
down
difference
open
between
threes at a
shooting and
45%
scoring. There's a
clip.
difference between shooting and scoring. Jason Kidd could shoot at the end of his career. Could he score? Like, Jalen Brunson and one of the best scorers and premier one-on-one isolation players in the world, on the globe, on the planet. Like, period. And you're talking about a guy that can shoot. My fucking 15-year-old kids I know could shoot. Everybody could shoot. Connor could shoot. Big fella could shoot. Everybody could shoot. Everyone but Ben Simmons can shoot.
That's true.
Not everyone can shoot. This is a Nets channel. We have Ben Simmons. But all right, I don't want to get tough on that. Nate,
you don't want to do this, bro.
Why can't Brunson shoot like Halliburton? Why can't Brunson knock down threes at the same clip that Halliburton does?
He can. What are you talking
Why
about?
Why can't he have 50, 40, 90 seasons like Halliburton can?
He can.
Rajon Rondo could also play defense.
What are you talking about?
So can Halliburton. Like, Rondo's a special defender. I understand. But Halliburton's a better defensive player than Brunson is by a mile, right? Just because of his natural
Halliburton's
ability.
a better defender. Sure.
So if Brunson's not scoring, he offers me nothing. Like, he gives you nothing. Like, if he's having a bad day, he's 2 for 10 that day.
Yeah, bro.
He
And
gives you
if
nothing.
Michael Jordan's not scoring, he's Lou Dort. Like, what are you saying? But he does score every night. Like,
He doesn't
you make
score every
no
night.
That's
Look
sense,
at the
true.
first 2 games against Philly. He was like 3 for 17. No, I don't. Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan.
You're bringing
they
up
have bad games.
aberrations.
They
What
can
are you
earn
talking?
their
He
dinner
averaged
on
33 in the
defense.
playoffs on 50% shooting. You bringing up one game, just like with
You just
Halliburton
said he
when
scores
he
every
scored
game.
16
He
on
doesn't.
40% shooting, but you're bringing up the 2 games he scored 30 against the
You
Knicks
said
when
he
every other night he
scores
scored
every
8 and
game.
12.
He doesn't. No one does that. And in those 2 games, he gives you nothing. If Halliburton gives you 6 points in a game, he still won the game in a number of other ways.
You realize
Look
he
at
had
the teams he's been
double-digit
able to
assists
win
multiple
with.
times in the playoffs, so you can't say he gives you nothing when he's not scoring.
Like,
I have a
Yeah,
question.
Michael Jordan, like I said, Michael Jordan without scoring is Lou Dort. Like, you're pointing out obvious.
I have a
Michael
question.
Jordan
Like,
doesn't
Kareem
score.
without
He
a
still gives you
post game
a
is
litany of other
who?
things that he can help you with. If Jalen Brunson
Yo.
doesn't score, you got to take him out of the game almost. Like, if you're going to tell me Jalen Brunson's not going to score today, there's no point in playing him. Like, there's nothing else he can do.
Yo, he scored 33 a game in the playoffs. What do you mean if he can't score?
If he's not scoring that night, he offers you nothing.
I have a
And
question.
You haven't addressed that.
And
Who-
if I
You
can't
still,
walk
like,
left
you're trying to get
over
away
right
from that.
tomorrow, I won't leave my fucking house. But like I've been pretty good at walking
Who-
every day
Okay,
for the last 20 years.
game
Like
7.
he's
It's
good
game
at
7.
scoring.
It's game 7 of the Game 7 of the NBA Finals. Jalen Brunson gives you 16 points that day. You winning that game? Or you losing that game?
Wait, who
You're
played?
losing 'cause
Who
he-
played
I know-
better?
I know
shots.
Halliburton's not in the
You gotta
finals.
be getting up
Wait,
the ball.
I know Halliburton's not in the finals. I know
Who
Jalen
played-
Brunson
who
games
Who
in
was
the
further
finals.
in the
Halliburton's not
playoffs?
there.
Brunson or Halliburton?
Who played
further?
better? Who
All right,
played
how about
better
this?
in the Knicks Indiana series?
Brunson was
Halliburton or Brunson?
had an unbelievable series in that series. Absolutely. 100%. Brunson had
Gary,
an
what
amazing
about this?
series.
What about this situation? What about this situation? Tyrese Halliburton down 1, buzzer beater, misses it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like you could do situations
But it's not situational.
all day
Like,
long. Game 7, he's not
you're
shooting well.
taking
All right, so
pure
he didn't
point
show
guard
up.
who makes everyone better, who can defend multiple positions against a guy who can score buckets. Like, this is what I mean, like Rondo or
Yo,
Gilbert
bro,
Arenas.
you're talking about
Rondo
an
helps
MVP
you win on a
candidate,
litany
an
of
MVP
levels.
candidate scoring buckets, like a Luka Doncic type MVP scoring buckets type guy in the world. Like
And if you give
like,
me
that's what
peak
Luka
Chris
does, too.
Paul or peak Luka, I'm taking peak Chris Paul. Like, it's not close to me either.
one's already been to the finals by himself. One limp
Both
there
have
on
been
the
to the finals,
one
both
limp there
have.
on the Suns. One limp there on the Suns.
To the finals, he was the best player on the team that year.
All right.
Was he not?
That's a whole. You see, there's so many arguments within arguments. I can't do it.
He was the best player. He was the best player on the team that year. And the next year, he dropped off a lot, and the Suns dropped off.
All right,
a
bro.
lot.
You'll take Chris Paul over Luka. Good luck. Good
You
luck.
give me peak Chris Paul, 2008 Chris Paul or current Luka. I'm taking 2008 Chris Paul, 100%.
What did 2000? Let me see. 2008 Chris Paul, was he
I'm
in the
just
finals
speaking
that
out- I'm
year?
just
Was
speaking-
he
I'm
was he
just-
the best player in the world? Luka is literally the best,
No,
arguably
because
the best player
Kobe
in the world.
Bryant played at that time, and if Kobe Bryant played right now, Luka wouldn't be the best player in the world. Kobe Bryant
I'm
would be
just
the
saying,
best player in the
it's
world.
tough arguing a guy. You're arguing a guy whose career is already over, who never won, who never had success in the playoff, versus a guy who's like in his like 4th year and entering his prime, arguably, who still got fucking baby fat on him and can't grow a beard yet. And okay, fine. You want to argue those two guys? Sure. Argue a guy who's been in the league for 5 years
So
versus a guy whose
you're
career is
saying
over
right now,
and
Luka's been-
hasn't won yet. But like Luka
Luka-
has a chance to win 4 rings on his own, and you know that
Luka's
as the best
gonna
player on
win.
his team.
Okay,
You know it's possible. You know it's possible. You know it's
he's gonna
possible.
win 4. Look, I guess
One,
anything is
Three,
possible.
more than Chris Paul. Anything
Anthony
more than Chris
Edwards
Paul.
and Wembanyama decides to sign and form a big 3. I suppose that's possible. Outside of something
He
really
was in the
weird
finals
happening.
with Kyrie. All right.
Yes, he was in the finals with Kyrie. I'm with you. And the year
Is
before
Luka
that,
the top 2 player in the world? Is Luka a top 2 player in the world?
top
Yes.
2 player in the world? No, he's not top 2
Yes.
player in the world.
Oh yes,
Top
he
3.
is.
Is he top 3?
No, he's not a top 3 player in the world.
Is he top 4? I'm just want to see how
Now
far
we're,
we
now
go.
we're now we're having a debate. Like, I would say probably 5 or 6, but we can say 4. He's not in the top 3.
Who's
He's
the
What year
best?
was Chris
Who's the
Paul
best
top
player in the
4?
world?
Joker,
Okay.
Then who? Giannis?
Giannis. I don't even like to say Embiid, but Embiid because he's hurt all the time. But Embiid's the 3rd best player in the world, and then after that, it's Luka or Shea or Ant. You can. I'd say you can take those 3 guys and kind of throw them up.
What
See,
year
I
was
don't
Chris
see-
Paul
I
top
don't-
four in the world?
What
I
was
don't
that?
see it.
I'd say Luca. I'd say Luca's around 4 or 5.
I don't. Yeah, I don't. I'm fine with that for sure.
I see Luca as 2.
So you're taking Luca over Greek Freak.
Oh yeah,
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
he hasn't.
Greek Freak can't shoot.
I understood. I get he can't shoot.
His
He's
shot
also
starts worse
a
than
physical
Halliburton's.
freak
We'll
that
pull
there's
that
nothing
up,
you can
Gary.
do with. He gets downhill, you might as well just get out of his way, right? Like honestly, like if he gets the ball going downhill, just get out of his way.
Luca can
You know-
create. Luca can create, and Luca can pass, and Luca can shoot,
Look-
and Luca can rebound. Luca can do everything.
Is he a more skilled player than Giannis?
Oh yeah.
he is. But Rick Smits was a more skilled player than Shaq. He wasn't better than Shaq.
Yeah.
Dude, Shaq was a
Bro.
monster.
Okay, Greek Freak's a Greek Freak. He's a
Shaq
6'11"
was-
point guard who's built like Shaq and moves
Bro, Shaq-
like Anthony Edwards. Like he's something different. Like, and I understand your argument. Like if we check off boxes, yeah, Luke is gonna check more boxes than Greek the Freak. But Greek the Freak checks Embiid checks way more boxes than all those guys, right? But Greek Freak is freakish, right?
Embiid can't create.
For a 7'1", 300-pound dude,
He
for
can't.
what he is,
He cannot create.
he-
And he's dirty as hell.
okay, that's besides the point, right? Like, yeah, I agree with you. I said this way before the Knicks series. I said this when they played the Nets in 2019. I said this is a dirty player. I've been saying that for years. I don't disagree with you.
Look
and
at
he's
him
way
in the
too good to
European
be that
game.
dirty
Look
of
at
a
him
player.
in the Olympics. He plays. He flops around for the call, and refs are laughing at it. And he doesn't even know how to play physical
So-
basketball. 'Cause he's just
Embiid,
used to the NBA. He's used to being a superstar in the NBA.
You're
Embiid is
telling
good, but to me, he's probably number 5 or 6.
we're not. We're splitting hairs here, right? We're saying whether he's the third or the fifth best player in the NBA. I mean, we're not.
Yeah, but I mean, if he's the third best player, obviously him and Tyrese Maxson are beating little Jalen Brunson, who sometimes can't even score. You know.
Okay, so we're totally on. Where would you rank Joel Embiid amongst the best active players?
Top 5, maybe 5th.
I'd put him like 6 or 7.
Problem with Embiid, he's good, but he gets injured way too much.
Yeah.
Bro, I go to
That's what I'm saying.
playoffs
I don't
all the
like
time,
putting him there,
bro.
but if we're assuming health, I agree with you. And if you want to move him off that list for that reason, it's like when fighters are inactive, you take him off the pound for pound list. Why did you take Errol Spence off your pound for pound list? Because he's fought twice in 4 years. That's why, right? Because he's not active. If you want to take Embiid off your list because he plays 40 games a year, okay, like I have no problem with that. But I'm saying, assuming he's healthy, where do you rank him? There's not too many players ever in the history of the NBA who are better than Joel Embiid.
Is Shaq better than Joel Embiid?
No.
Oh my God!
Oh my.
You want to say who checks
Are you
more
out of your
boxes?
mind, bro?
You just said who checks more boxes, Embiid or Shaq? Who's
Bro,
a better
as a
shooter?
player, there has been no more
You just
dominant
told me-
player.
Yes, that's what I was just about to
than
say.
Shaquille O'Neal.
Shaq is the
Also-
most dominant player of
No,
all
no,
time.
Let me talk.
Okay.
Also, you said that Giannis is the second best player in the NBA, who
Yeah.
has a lot of traits similar to Shaq. Okay, so Shaq is
Freak
definitely
the Freak is 10 times better than Shaq. 10 times. Like that's not even. You're talking about one guy who can defend all
Shaq
5
is the most
positions
dominant
against
player of all
Shaq,
time.
who can't guard any positions. Every single player Shaq guarded. Go pull up Vlade Divac's numbers against Shaq. They skyrocket. Go pull up Brad Miller's numbers against Shaq. Every guy scored 30 on Shaq. Why? If you can hit a 15-foot jump shot, Shaq can't get out there. Can Shaq defend the like Draymond Green says? Give us the Kobe and Shaq Lakers. We'll just put his ass in the pick and roll, and we'll have a field day.
do you really
can't-
think? Oh, go ahead.
He can't defend any position on the court. Like, and now you're taking off Greek Freak, who can defend all 5 positions, who's the quintessential defender in today's NBA for a big man. You want to take him off the court and put up Shaq, who can't guard it. You'd have to take him off the game. If I'm going 5 out, who's Shaq guarding?
You think that Shaq has to worry about the Greek Freak's jump shot?
You're gonna let him shoot. He'll take an 18-footer and hit it. He does it all the time. If you're gonna let him shoot, Greek
Or
Freak will
he'll
take
miss it.
18
2, that's a 50-50 shot.
Okay, Like, 50 shot, you can live with that. An 18-foot jump shot from Greek Freak. You
If
live
Shaq
with that.
gets the ball,
Oh yeah,
he's not
game
giving it
over.
up.
Yep.
If
Gary,
you're
stop
playing
jumping
if you're playing one on one, if you're playing one on one,
hang on.
Giannis better get the ball first.
This talking point that Shaq is the most dominant player is the worst talking point. He could not win without the best guard in the NBA on his team. If you think I'm wrong, he couldn't win until Penny Hardaway got there. Penny Hardaway was the best guard in the NBA. They get to the finals. He gets dominated by Hakeem Olajuwon, loses 4 straight. Then he goes with Kobe. He can't win until Kobe's the best guard in the NBA. Once Kobe's the best guard in the NBA, they win 3 in a row. He leaves, he goes to Miami. They can't win until Dwayne Wade is the best guard in the NBA. Dwayne Wade is the best guard in the NBA. He can't close out games. You can't put the ball in his hands. He can't. He needs to be able to defer to someone else late in the game. Greek the Freak scores 50 to close out a series, right? Like, Shaq can't do that. Shaq needs a guard to close out for him. He's every step of the way, that's been the case. He's never won without having the best guard in the NBA on his team. Like,
now,
you can say that it's wrong, except that's where the evidence points. Shaq is a great player. He's a tremendous player. He's extremely limited, extremely one-dimensional. And a guy like Embiid is better than him across the board. Like, Embiid's skill set compared to Shaq is not even close. Shaq had a baby hook shot and he was big. Like, that's it. He can't defend. He couldn't really do much of anything other than a baby hook shot from 5 feet and in and dunk the ball. Right? Like, Shaq in today's NBA, you got to take him out of the game.
Shaq would annihilate Joel Embiid.
Annihilate.
He would muscle him so bad.
Joel Embiid. The size of Joel Embiid? Have you seen the size of him? Have you seen the size of Embiid?
Do you know the size of Shaq when he was in the NBA?
I understand. I don't think you're gonna push Embiid around no matter who you are.
He will destroy Joel Embiid.
I don't even. Okay, so Joel Embiid pulls him out 15 feet from the hoop. What's Shaq doing?
He'll go out there.
And he's going to defend Embiid out there?
He's going to try to, yeah.
Okay, is he going to be able to stay in front of him?
He's quick enough to move. I'm not saying he's as quick as Embiid, but what?
If he goes out there, Brad Miller, Rick Smith,
Gary, what rules? 90s rules? Play 90s rules. He'll hang with him. Play these bitch rules, and he'll be fouled out in the first half.
You just want him to foul. You just want Shaq to be able to foul him. Like, this is what I'm saying with the old heads. And I'm not calling you old. I'm just using the old heads.
It's different, though. It's different. You look at Embiid right now.
I want to be able to foul hard. Like, that's all you're asking for is hard fouls. Like,
Gary,
I want Charles Oakley and Rick Mahorn to come and grab you and throw you down by your jersey. It's like,
Gary, in Europe, Embiid would score less than he would score in the NBA. Why? If everyone's worse there, if the best skilled players are in the NBA, he would clearly score less if he played in Europe.
Sure, for sure. The style of the game.
Yeah, but it's not because they're fouling him all the time. It's like they're actually playing basketball. It's not like when some shitty no name is on him and they bump him and Embiid goes to the free throw line now because they want to sell his jersey and want him to score 30 points a game, and that's a fact.
Can Shaq guard Embiid? Can Shaq guard Embiid over a 48-minute game?
Yes.
Can Shaq guard Embiid?
Absolutely.
Nate?
In 90s rules?
No, in 2024 rules.
Probably not.
I hate doing the time machine argument because, George Mikan wouldn't hang right now too, but he was pretty damn good back in 1945 or whatever, whenever George Mikan played. So I hate moving players when they didn't play, but Shaq was clearly more dominant when he played than when Joel Embiid played, and he's losing to Kawhi Leonard when he's got the best players on his team and Jimmy Butler on his side. And Joel Embiid is losing to little Jalen Brunson.
Everybody, bro. Shaq needed to have deep. So what you're saying is, if I give Embiid Luka, will they win? Yeah, probably. But that's what Shaq had to have. He had to have Penny Hardaway. He had to have Kobe Bryant. He had to have, and he couldn't even win.
Well,
he had Harden. He had Harden and did nothing. Nothing.
35-year-old Harden who shot. James Harden is not the best guard in the NBA. Luka.
Tyrese Maxey's top 10, right? Is he a top 10 guard, top 15 guard in the league?
Top 10 guard. He's not. Yeah, he's top 10 guard in the league for sure.
Top 10 guard, and he couldn't get out the first round.
Okay.
You can't compare. You can't compare two players.
How many times Shaq been swept out of the playoffs? 6, 7? Like, he been swept so many times.
Bro, he dominated his era more than Embiid dominated his era.
How come he got swept all the time? If
Because-
he's so
It doesn't
dominant,
matter.
how
He
come he can't win one
dominated
game
his
in the
era.
series?
Why did Joel Embiid ever lose a game, bro? I'm not doing this with you. He dominated his
He's
era more
dominant.
than
I can
Joel
say he
Embiid
gets
dominated in his
swept.
era.
He's playing
As
with
of right
the
now, it's
best
not
guard
over.
in the NBA at all times. If he does not have the best guard in the NBA, he gets swept. And even when he does have the best guard in the NBA, he's still getting
Okay,
swept by
clearly
Hakeem
Joel
Olajuwon.
Embiid needs like 2 more All-Stars to get out the first round then.
So
Like,
does
we
Shaq.
could do this.
Everything you say about Embiid, Shaq
So then we
did
could
it
do this.
against
So we can go back and forth. This is why we're having this argument. This is why they're like this. Where you're clearly making the point. Like
I would say how my
they're
next
both
show
good
went this
center. They're
direction.
both dominant centers that can't win in the playoffs, that can't perform unless they have elite guards next to them. Like, so you're saying the same thing. You're saying they're one and the same.
So then Embiid's the most dominant player in the history of the NBA because he's equally as dominant as Shaq.
No, I'm
Do you
not
see
saying
how
that at
that
all.
sounds silly?
I'm not
I'm
at all.
not saying that. I said, don't put words in my mouth. I didn't say that. He's not even the most dominant center in the league or his era right now.
Yeah.
When
And,
Shaq
and
is not
that's
even
what I'm
argued.
saying about Shaq. It depends.
Shaq was though.
Shaq was
Yeah.
never better than Hakeem Olajuwon. So if you don't want to put him in that era,
That's not his
never
era.
better-
That's not his era. That's not
Okay,
his
fine.
era.
He was never better than Tim Duncan. Tim Duncan, the power forward. No, he's not his center. He was never better than Tim Duncan ever. If you said to me at any point in their career, Duncan or Shaq, like, it's not even a question.
Duncan couldn't win without Hall of Famers. Tim Duncan couldn't win without elite
Tim Duncan
When
couldn't
did
win without-
Duncan play?
yeah,
When did Duncan
exactly.
play? Duncan played with Tony Parker, and he won championships.
He played with
Really?
David
Tony
Robinson.
He played with
Parker.
David
Tony
Robinson and won
Parker's not
championships.
Kobe Bryant, bro. He's
He
not
played with
Dwayne
Kawhi
Wade.
Leonard and won championships. He played with Manu and Tony and won
He
championships.
won his last
Those teams are
championship.
stacked.
He
What are
won
you
his
saying?
last
He's
He
not
played with David
championship.
Robinson.
Nets.
He played with Kawhi.
Robinson was 100 years old. Oh, the first one? Okay, that's fine. You want to say the first one he played with a superstar? That's
Bro,
fine.
you got something for everything. Jason Kidd took like fucking Nenad Kristich to playoffs. And who was
Yeah.
starting? Who was that bald guy? Scott McCullough was starting in the
Yeah,
finals in 2002,
right.
2003 for the Nets.
And Jason Kidd was
Like-
one of the best players in the NBA. I'm with you.
That's what I'm saying. But that's Karen. But like when you have David Robinson on your team, I don't care he's 10th or 12th year, bro. It's better than the Scott McCullough. Like it's
Todd
and
McCullough.
Kawhi Leonard. Like this is serious. Kawhi
Yeah.
Leonard, David Robinson. These aren't no name guys. These are Hall of Fame, top 50
You
all
won a
time
champion-
players.
Yes, you're not going to win a
that he played with.
championship. Hakeem Olajuwon did it with the Rockets in 94. Other than that, no, you're not winning a championship with no-name guys. Yes, every championship team has good players. Not every championship team requires you to
They're-
have the
they're-
best guard in the entire NBA to still get swept by Hakeem Olajuwon. Like, guys, like you guys say this. How come Shaq couldn't win unless he had the best guard in the NBA on his team? If he's so dominant. Hakeem didn't need that. Hakeem won with Kenny Smith and Vernon Maxwell as his guards.
I'm not arguing against
But
Hakeem.
dude,
I'm arguing
you
against
could-
Embiid and why he can't win. We're arguing
But dude, you
Embiid.
could say-
They try to stay on focus.
Well,
You could say that. You could say the same thing about Dwayne Wade. Like Dwayne Wade couldn't win without LeBron. Dwayne Wade couldn't win without Shaq.
Dwayne Wade won without Bron. What did
Yeah, he
Shaq
won
do
with
in that
Shaq.
finals? What did he do in that final? Shaq averaged like 15-7 in that series on 40% shooting. He was useless. Wade won that series for him. Like, look at the stats. Shaq was basically shot at that point. Wade won that series.
Man,
I think the bottom line is you can't
Gary.
compare players for two different eras. It's such a different
you can't
game
do
now than it was, excuse me, in the 90s. Like it's way too hard to compare players, compare and contrast. You don't know. We have a feeling. We don't know what Shaq would do in today's game. We don't know. We can't officially say what Embiid would do in Shaq's era. See, it's
I want to
Yeah,
address
Gary,
this. So
but
Hawk
hold
says
on. If you
Shaq
wanna, one
averaged-
second. If you want to flip your
Yeah.
argument, because you're a big Kobe fan, right?
Yeah.
You big Kobe fan. Kobe
Clearly,
couldn't win
yeah.
without a Hall of Fame big man, though.
Well, you say Hall of Fame big man. Okay, so you're saying Gasol's
Right?
a Hall
But
of Fame.
no. Let's agree.
Okay,
he
sure.
couldn't win without a Hall of Fame big man, right? He never won without a Hall of Fame big man. Don't
Sure.
shake your head because you're making the same argument about
That's true.
Shaq.
No, I said he can't win without the best guard in the NBA. Not a good guard, not an all-star
that's just
guard.
happened to
The
be- he
best
happened to
guard
be-
in the NBA. He can't do it without it. So it's like he can't close games, but he's the most dominant player in the NBA ever. If that's true, why can't he close out games? Why does he need to give the ball to Kobe or
All
Penny
right, so why
Hardaway
couldn't
or Dwayne
so
Wade?
Kobe never won without a Hall of Fame big man? He never won without a
Okay.
Hall of Fame big man.
Okay.
so here's what we've learned today. Basketball, you play together. Okay, you have everybody has to play together. Good players who play with other good players win. Okay, and that's it.
I don't even know how we got on. I think Shaq is a Hall of Fame superstar. I'm with Chris Mad Dog Russo. He's easily the most overrated basketball player of all time. Easily.
Shaq is the most
The
overrated.
most overrated basketball player of all time.
Oh boy.
If you think he's better than Tim Duncan, like we don't even have like a place to land on. Like Tim Duncan was like the absolute perfect center, like the absolute perfect power forward, or whatever you want to call him.
He's a
like,
power forward.
Perfect. And LeBron James is a small forward, except he's a point guard, right? Like I get Tim Duncan's a power forward, except he's a center, obviously, right?
No, he's a
Steph
power
Curry's a
forward.
point guard, except he's a shooting guard. Okay,
He's a power forward.
he's a center.
I don't get.
He's a center.
He's a power forward.
When I think of Tim Duncan, I think of power. I don't think.
I
of
know we
Tim
all say
Duncan
he's
as
a.
center.
You think of LeBron James, and you say he's a small forward, right?
Yes.
Okay, and Steph Curry's a point guard.
Yes.
Play this game with me. Steph Curry and LeBron James are on the same team. Who handles the ball? Who plays off the ball?
We know, Gary. We know. It's
So
a different
LeBron
NBA,
James
though.
is a point guard. Steph Curry's a two guard. Like I mean,
Yeah. No, you're right. But it's a
Dirk
different
is,
NBA.
though.
It's a different
I
NBA.
agree.
It wasn't the same when Tim Duncan played, and you know that.
and I said then Tim Duncan was a center. Not on the first championship team. Yes, he was a power forward. I agree with the one with Robinson, and when they beat the Knicks, he was the power forward. After that, he became the center.
Okay, let's put it this way: what's a better team? This current Philly team with Embiid on it, or this current Philly team with Shaq on it?
Shaq.
Embiid.
Really?
You don't have. Yeah, you're pitching.
You have.
Shaq.
Well,
you
really,
have.
The wrong guy.
Embiid
Like,
gets.
I'm not interested. I'm not interested.
like
Shaq is a Hall of Fame
Nate's
player,
point
he's a Hall of Fame
earlier.
great player. Granted.
Embiid's gotten to Embiid gets to the line so many times. It's like I don't know. Like Shaq wouldn't knock down those free throws, but like it's a completely different game. Back to the point that I made earlier. It's a completely different game. You can't compare. You can't say what would Embiid do on Shaq's team. What would Shaq do on Embiid's team? You just can't compare. It's two different styles of the game.
But okay, but you have Paul George on Philly right now. He'd be taking the outside shots. Okay, yeah, Maxey.
I think the way this Philly team is constructed is not good, and we were just talking about that. Like, I get the talent on Philly is there. The way that it's constructed is, I think, quite poor. I don't think
There's a lot of
Maxey
talent.
and
It's
Paul
just
George work together. One guy wants to go up speed, right? Downhill. And the other guy wants the ball to go into his dribble packets to try to get to the whole hoop or shoot a step back three, right? Like, Maxey, I think Philly got worse by putting those two guys together. We'll see, but I don't think that's a great fit. I just like I didn't think Harden to the Nets was a great fit. I don't think Paul George and Maxey complement each other at all.
See, you'll take what you would take with Embiid versus Shaq. You would take his jump shot and stuff like that, but you're dismissing his softness. Okay, and he is soft. Okay. Shaq, while he couldn't shoot free throws, will dominate the paint. People aren't going in on Shaq, prime Shaq. They're not. They're just not.
Okay, so step out like Brad Miller did and light him up from 15 feet, like Vlade Divac did. He couldn't guard Divac. Divac wasn't fleet of foot like Embiid. But
What's a better percentage shot?
What was that?
What's a better percentage shot? Stepping out or closer to the basket?
Closer to the basket.
Absolutely.
Unless you're
So yeah, go ahead, step out. You're not gonna you're gonna shoot a lower percentage, and Shaq is gonna dunk on your asses, and that's it.
Open mid-range jump shot, he's gonna kill you. Like you want to let Embiid shoot open mid-range jump shot, he's gonna kill you. He'll take
Gary, the numbers show you're wrong. Like
what numbers?
Shaq averaged 30 points multiple times in the playoffs, and he didn't shoot under 50% until he was in Phoenix as the big cactus when he was fucking 40 years old.
Hang on.
The big fella's points. Like Embiid shoots 40% every year, and he shoots 3 threes a game, shooting less than 30% in the playoffs.
Let's do this. What was Shaq's total points and rebound average in his career for the playoffs?
Well, you can't. Right now. Just
are
you including the last 7 years on the Celtics and Suns when he would come on the bench for 10 minutes? Are you including those years?
What was his total points and rebounds for his career in the playoffs? You have it right in front of you. I know you're looking at it.
I'm looking. 24 and 11.
Okay, what are Embiid's numbers, the career numbers in the playoffs?
24 and 11.
Oh my, blow me away! All right, and Shaq is such a dominant big man.
Yeah, but look at the pace. Look at the pace of play. Embiid should be averaging 30 and 16 in this today's pace.
You're dismissing the sample size.
How many minutes did Shaq play?
But yeah, let me take this away. No, because it's the same thing. 36, 40. They were playing the same minutes, but I'm including the years where Shaq was with Phoenix, Cleveland,
That's
Boston,
what I'm saying.
the last 2 years of Miami. In his prime, like where Joel Embiid is right now, he was points per game 26, 27, 30, 27, 30, 31, 28, 27. All those years with the Lakers,
Yeah,
and
Gary,
every
you're
single year was
dismissing.
56%, 55%,
So
56%, 53%.
One guy shot 20. One guy put up 24 and 11,
Right.
and the other guy put up 24 and 11.
No,
And
because
I'm telling
Embiid
you,
is
in
still
his prime,
playing.
In his prime, it's 30 and 11. Through his first X amount of years, right? Through Shaq's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years, he was averaging 29 points a game. So Joel Embiid in his 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years is averaging 24. So no, it's not the same. Shaq in a slower
it's the
pace
same. It's
is averaging
24-11.
30,
You wanna
29.
pick
No,
out-
he's averaging 29-11 to 25-11. And when he shoots 3 threes a game in a higher pace game with him, I'm talking about Embiid right now, and he's averaging 5 less points than Shaq did in his first 8 years in the playoffs on a much worse percentage,
You're
like 10
picking
less
out
percentage
random
field goal
years and saying,
percentage.
let's look at
Right.
these years and ignore all the others.
No. I'm grabbing Embiid's first 9 years and Shaq's first 9 years, and I'm comparing them.
Yeah, Gary, you're taking Shaq's whole career
Yeah,
versus what
Embiid's whole career.
versus what Embiid has done
Okay,
so
fine.
far.
Embiid hasn't
Dude,
retired
let Embiid
yet.
play on the
Embiid's
Knicks at
still playing.
44.
So
Let
he
Embiid
could-
play on the Knicks at 44 with bum knees and come in 10 minutes a game and see see his playoff percentages dip. Like that's a basic. Like
You give me
I'm feeling I'm
Kobe
explaining this to
Bryant,
Connor.
my numbers are going to go up.
No
right?
offense,
Like
Connor.
you give
I'm
me
just like-
Kobe Bryant, my numbers are going to go up, right? Like I mean, you give me the best player maybe to ever live.
You're
and
moving
you
the
let me play
goalposts,
with
bro.
him,
You're moving
and my
the
numbers
Yeah,
go
goalposts.
up.
you're moving the goalposts with that.
I'm not moving the goalposts at all.
Yes, you
I
are.
said no. Okay, so what does Joel Embiid average for his career in the postseason? 24 and 11, right?
I'm talking about the first 9 years
Okay,
versus the first 9 years because you can't comprehend that the last 6 years
we can
he
get
had
to
no
that. We
knees
can get to that. We
and
can get
grabbed
to that.
contracts on the Celtics,
Understood.
Cavaliers, Suns,
we
and did
can-
nothing.
We can get to that in a minute. What did Joel Embiid average for his whole career in the playoffs? 24 and 11.
We just did this. They're the same,
Okay,
both
all right
players.
then.
Embiid is still playing.
So so it could go up, but let's just
Okay, fine. Let's do this. Let's
assume
do
he
this.
never
Who
plays
The
again.
like-
who had-
the
who do you
the
think- who had
likely
more points in the
percentage is
playoffs?
it's gonna
Who had
go
more
down.
total points in the
Why would
playoffs?
it likely go down? What did he average last year in the playoffs? What did Embiid average against the Knicks?
The likelihood of a
Yeah,
player continuing his success as he gets older goes down. They hit a peak and they go down.
Okay, so what did
He's
he
in the
average?
league 9 years.
What did he average
he-
last year against the Knicks?
Who? I don't
You're
have the
not,
stuff
you're
in
not
front of me.
seeing that. You're not comparing. You're not comparing the
I'm
2 years.
asking,
You're
I
not hearing
don't
that
know the
argument.
answer. I'm asking a question. What did he average points and rebounds against the Knicks?
He
But Gary, just understand one player played 18 years, and the last 7 was as a bench player, jumping on playoff teams as a bench reserve.
Right.
Like, so
So
we're
what do
comparing
you-
those career
okay.
stats
and
to
Embiid
a guy who's only played in his prime for 9 years in the playoffs.
Okay, so what did Embiid average against the Knicks in the playoffs?
it says here 30 33 and 11.
Oh, so his stats are going up or down. He averaged 33 and 11. 9
That's not his
years into
playoff
the
stats.
league.
You're doing your argument. You're grabbing
Oh
one
my
series.
God! You just
You're
said
grabbing
his,
one
his
series.
numbers are going to get worse. Last
I didn't
year,
say
he
that.
had it playing hurt. He averaged 33 and 11.
Listen,
Like, I
what
don't even
Big
like-
Fella's
I don't
saying,
even
what
understand
Big
your
Fella's
point.
saying is over the course of his career, like
That's
we're talking about Shaq that played 18 years. 18 years, those final 7 or 8, he was jumping on random championship teams. Joel Embiid is in the middle of his prime right now, which is why you can't compare the whole career playoff stats.
Right, so his numbers
That doesn't
could
make
get
any
better.
sense.
So
What?
his numbers
Point.
would likely
That's his
get better.
point. If Joel Embiid jumps onto playoff teams for 7 years into his 40s, as Shaq did, his playoff averages are going to dip. That's Big Fella's
Maybe.
point.
Steph Curry's aren't. LeBron James aren't. Kevin
No,
Durant's
bro.
aren't.
What?
I don't know. Greek the Freaks aren't. How long Greek the Freaks been? in the league?
Oh,
12,
listen to
13
this.
years?
You're not
Listen
talking
to
about
this.
40 or
His
Their numbers aren't dropping. Like you keep saying this, but I'm giving you a million cases where that's not true.
Okay.
With
What?
today's
What?
players.
Yeah,
What
but Karl
players?
Malone on the
Embiid in
Lakers
his
was
ninth
perfect.
year,
Karl
his
Malone
stats
on the
went up
Lakers
from
was the
23
same.
points a game.
Karl
to
Malone on the
33
Lakers,
points a
his
game.
numbers went up. Karl Malone
What?
on the Lakers, his numbers went up.
Gary.
That's
Gary.
the guy that played 20 years ago.
Gary.
That's what we're talking about.
Gary.
Embiid plays now.
Gary.
You're saying his numbers are going to go down. I've given you 7 guys who are all on Embiid's level whose number didn't
No,
go down.
we're talking about
Oh,
if a
Jesus
guy
Christ.
plays into his 18th and 20th years, his numbers will go
And
down.
I've just
That's it.
given
That's it.
you.
That's
I've
it.
given you many cases of current
Not
players
guys with
where
18th and
that's
20th
not
years.
true.
Please try to
Gary.
focus. 18th to 20th years. 18 years.
How
You're
many
not
years
getting
has
me.
LeBron
You're
James
giving me
been in the league?
Giannis.
How many
You
years
said
has LeBron
Giannis
James been
and
in the league? How many years has LeBron been in the
Oh,
league?
I'm sorry, the GOAT.
How
Let me
many
check.
years
Let me
has
check
LeBron
the
been in
GOAT
the
of
league?
basketball.
I-
Let me check the GOAT of basketball. The
How many years has he
unicorn
been
of
in the league?
basketball. The one guy who's never had an injury. Like,
Kevin
okay,
Durant.
let me check the GOAT.
How long Kevin Durant been in the league?
17,
Yeah.
18. So
His
you give me
numbers
one
aren't
guy.
going down.
So you're giving me one
How
guy.
long Steph
You give me
Curry been in
one.
the league? I've given you 3.
Not that. 11,
I've given
12.
you
Curry,
3
12,
contemporaries.
13.
All
Curry's not 18 years.
16,
Giannis is not
15?
18 years.
What are we talking? I didn't say Giannis. I said Curry.
You did say Giannis.
You said
I
Giannis
said
too.
that before.
You did
I'm
say
saying
Giannis.
you want to talk about guys who've been in the league forever, whose numbers aren't going down in the postseason.
No,
I've
we're
just
talking about
given you 3
18 years.
contemporaries.
Don't just throw out words like forever. 18
Okay, so
years, like
at
Shaq.
17 years you can do fine, but at 18, then you hit a wall, and at 18 it's too much, except for Kevin Durant and LeBron James. Then
Gary,
they're
just
still
the
fine.
initial argument, bro, is a center like Shaq at year 15, 16, 17, 18. If he's in a bench role on the playoffs, his numbers as a playoff average, if you're a superstar, is going to go down. That was Big Fella's only point. I was just trying to
Okay.
clarify that for you. That's
So-
that's worldwide.
Here. In Shaq's first 12 series in the playoffs, he went 11-1. In Embiid's first 12 series in the playoffs, he's played 12 series in the playoffs. He's currently 5-7.
Okay. And Shaq wasn't 11-1 in his first 12 series. That would have means he won 3 championships.
No, every series he's played for the first 12 years throughout his career.
I don't follow he's 11. I don't follow the argument because his first year he got swept by Indiana. The first year in the playoffs he got swept by Indiana. His second year his second postseason they went to the finals and he got swept by Dream.
Let's see.
Then the next year I think he got swept again by someone else. I think they might have got swept by the Bulls.
Oh,
Gary.
it's not in. It's yeah. It
Gary.
wasn't in
I got you. I got you.
chronological
Don't worry
order.
about it.
Yeah.
Gary, my point is, as players get older, they hit a peak, and their numbers go down.
Except for all those instances that I just gave.
One.
Well,
So you gave one. You
can
said
say that
LeBron.
I'm wrong.
You gave one.
Steph Curry, Kevin
You
Durant.
said LeBron. That's it.
LeBron James, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, his contemporaries.
Those
Joel
aren't.
Embiid contemporaries. There seems to be a trend now where people can play into their late 30s when in the past they couldn't do that. But there seems to be a trend now with those 3 contemporaries that I just gave you who have no problem doing it.
Okay.
LeBron James 20 years ago was averaging 27, 7, and 7. Today, he's averaging 27, 7, and 7.
Is that the
I
norm?
think Embiid's going to do that. That's what you think Embiid's going to do in 40.
I don't know. Embiid is a physical marvel with unlimited skills.
A
Maybe.
physical
I don't
marvel.
know.
The guy's injured every damn year. What are you talking about?
Yeah, he sucks.
He's a physical
At
marvel.
his size and body, his size and weight, everyone moves like that. What? Yeah. I mean, I remember Shaq pulling up from 25 feet out and draining threes. I remember that. That happened all the time.
He's
not a
pretty
physical
much
marvel.
proves it doesn't matter how you move. What does Jokic
Okay,
move
it doesn't
like? He's
matter.
the
It
best player in
doesn't
the
matter
world.
how you move. So LeBron James, it doesn't matter that he can move, right? Tyrese Maxey, doesn't matter that he's one of the fastest guys in the NBA. It doesn't
You
matter.
took that way too directly, but you're just saying like to Big Fella's point, you were just saying like he's a freak of nature, but like you said, he never
Embiid's
played.
not a freak of
LeBron,
nature. You see
LeBron-
other 7-1 guys who can do what Embiid does?
bro, that's
one
like
of
saying
one.
it's like saying what's his name? Andre the Giant's a freak of nature. I don't need him on my basketball. Like he couldn't play. He wasn't an athlete, but him being like LeBron's a freak because he's 20 years in and never misses a game and still plays at the peak. Like that for sports to me is like. Obviously, everyone's a freak. Guys in the NFL are all freaks to me. They're all like anyone who could put their head on the rim is a freak.
All right. We'll I do have to run. I've been on this for an hour and a half. I appreciate everyone dropping by. Connor, hopefully we can talk Nets again sometime. But this was this was fun. Nate,
Definitely not what I expected, but turned out to be a great show. I will say that.
All right, y'all. I appreciate it. Nate. We'll pick this up with the Bridges trade another time. It's always good having
Next
you on.
episode of Anything But Nets. Can't wait.
Anything but Nets. Big fella, I didn't expect to get into such a heated basketball debate with you.
Yeah, that's okay.
That was it. That was interesting. That was fun.
Yeah, it was fun.
I'm just, I'm not I don't think Shaq sucks. I think he was a great player. I think there are about 10 other bigs I would take over him in a heartbeat.
Okay.
That's it, right? It's kind of
I'm
like
not
the Jeter
saying
argument.
I'm
Is
not
Jeter
saying
great?
Shaq's
Yeah,
the best
he's
center of all
great.
time, too. I
What was
never
that?
said Shaq was the best center of all time. I say he's the most dominant.
I mean, to me, like I don't know what that means,
It's a
right?
great
Like
point.
I don't.
It's a great
I don't,
point.
Did he dominate Dream, or did Dream dominate him?
Did I say he was better than Dream?
It's
Well,
different
if
eras,
Dream-
bro.
I don't understand
Different
the
eras.
argument. I
It's
don't
different
get-
eras.
No, they played against each other in the finals when Shaq was considered one of the best players in the NBA, and Hakeem
How old
took
was
a
Shaq?
liquid dump all over
What
him
year was
and
this? What year
embarrassed
was
him
this?
before
How old
games
was
and
Shaq?
swept him. What was that?
How old was Shaq? When was this? How old was Shaq?
24,
That was
25?
Magic Shaq.
Yeah, bro. Magic Shaq. All right, bro. Sounds good.
Yeah.
And LeBron got swept in the finals too. He's trash. Yeah, LeBron got swept in the finals his first year. Yeah, he's
You're
dookie.
saying
His
he's
first
more
year in the
dominant
playoffs.
than Hakeem Olajuwon, who dumped all over him. How
LeBron
is he
wasn't
more
dominant.
than
He got
Hakeem Olajuwon?
LeBron got swept in the playoffs. Oh, he's the worst. Oh my god.
I don't understand.
LeBron got swept in the finals.
So
You want to know who I think is the best center I ever played?
I can't get into guys I've never seen play. So you're gonna say Kareem, or you're gonna say Wilt?
I'm gonna say
Russell? I
Wilt.
can't. Maybe the stats
I'm
say
gonna
he
say
is.
Wilt.
I think there's an argument for that, but I can't get on board with that because I didn't see him play, so I can't. I
Well,
can neither confirm.
go
nor
look
deny.
at some tape.
The stats would agree with you. Big.
We got
No,
YouTube.
The stats would agree with you by far. Like statistically, for sure, he's the best player that's ever lived. I would agree. With that.
I've watched. I did in college. I did research on Wilt. I did all this stuff. He's the best athlete that ever played.
This all the statistics would. The guy averaged like 52 and 25 one year. Like
They changed. They changed the rules. They
rules.
changed the rules of the NBA because of Wilt Chamberlain. They're
I
not
don't
changing.
disagree,
They're
but
not
I
changing the
can't-
rules because of Joel Embiid, brother.
I can't say that Chamberlain is better or not better than such and such a guy because he's before my time.
They also
Hopefully
changed
they
the
do
rules for
change the
Shaq.
rules because of Embiid. Hopefully they do change
The
the rules.
fouls,
Embiid.
yeah.
Get all that flopping shit out of there. Get rid of
Yeah,
Embiid's
exactly.
flopping shit.
They
rid
also
of it.
changed
They'll
the
change
rules.
those
They
rules.
also changed the rules for Charles Barkley, who's a great player, but he's certainly not the greatest player of all time. And they changed rules for him.
Well, Shaq is better than Joel
Yeah.
Embiid. So
Not at basketball, but anyway.
Embiid's better. Embiid's better at playing dirty and getting Bell's palsy. That's it.
All right, y'all. I appreciate everyone. From Texas to the world, thank you.
All
and
right.
God bless. Can't wait to do this again.
Take care. Have a good one.